Let's go.
Hey,
Yo,
been playing a lot of Final Fantasy XIV lately.
I just didn't ask.
Yeah, it's pretty good. Been thinking about maybe making some sort of review on it. Just a collection of my thoughts, put it up on the channel. I think that could be pretty good.
What are you gonna call it? Final Fantasy XIV review? Come on, no one's gonna click on that. Think of a unique approach if you're gonna do this.
Unique approach, you say?
It's like I think that's the same person.
Here's a quirky little fact about myself. I've been playing World of Warcraft since I was 8 years old. Through that game, I've had some truly great and unforgettable experiences. Made online friends I still talk to 10 years later. Got cutting edge twice. Even went to a guild gathering in London to meet the people from my raid team. And a slew of other things which has made this game so special to me over the years. Recently, however, it's been rather unanimously agreed upon that the game's sort of taken a turn for the worst. To the point where the most anticipated piece of content
was a good fight, though.
was literally just them undoing 17 years of updates. And so for their newest expansion, Shadowlands, Blizzard rethought their plan and reallocated a large amount of their resources to provide the best possible experience for all. Sadly, however, as it turns out, spending your entire game budget on in-house lactation chambers, surveillance cameras for the female bathroom, and a giant frame picture of the budget provide the best possible experience for all. Sadly, however, as it turns out, spending your entire game budget on in-house
Men would walk into the breastfeeding room, there was no way to lock the door, they would just stare and I would have to scream at them to leave. Oh my god, this picture is disgusting, and this is just gross. Is there like a milking chamber? Ugh. Okay. Alright, let's keep watching. Ugh.
Chambers, surveillance cameras for the female bathroom, and a giant frame picture of Bill Cosby, look it up, doesn't really make the game any better. And so through a mix of the employees being a bunch of party rockers and the game just kind of being shit, not only did a large percentage of WoW players quit, but it's gotten so bad that majority of World of Warcraft content creators, people who have their livelihood and financial stability tied to WoW, decided that potentially being thrown out on the street is preferable to playing the game. And no matter where you look in the community as of late, all you
That's sad
hear is
but
just,
true.
Bullets, preacher! Game's kinda shit at the moment, yeah? Hey guys, Matt Season here.
I love his drama time.
Quitting the game. Well, I just don't think that WoW's in a very good spot right now, with the various systems and internal affairs really coming together to just make it a not fun experience to boot up the game. Definitely, absolutely. The worst part is that we have no idea how my blade, Michael.
Oh my god.
Thirsts. It hungers for blood. Mr. Madsen, people are quitting en masse. More allegations of gender discrimination are coming out by the hour. One woman even killed herself after the company's treatment of her. Please say something in your defense.
Oh boy, that's not good. Oh yeah, no, wait, I have an idea. Okay, yeah, come over here. Sometimes, whenever you've done something wrong, there's nothing you can do but just offer a genuine apology.
Sorry for party rocking.
That's just
But when the company is on
sad
fire,
and
employees are too busy
disgusting.
molesting their female coworkers
And
to do anything about it.
unfortunately
the game is so
now
bad that even
okay to
Asmongold
joke
doesn't want to
about.
play it. Where do a metric shit ton of WoW players go? Final Fantasy, apparently. Final Fantasy XIV is an MMORPG originally released in 2010 and was, upon release, notoriously a shit game. So to fix it up, developer Square Enix called in game director Yoshi P, and fix it he did, effectively remaking the entire game from the ground up by making a Realm Reborn. After which he kept spearheading expansions for the game, each of which somehow always turned out better than the last. And this is culminating in the game
is
now having a 10-year backlog
crazy.
of both story and content for
It's
any new player to
insane.
explore. And excited at the prospect of throwing away over 300 hours of my life, I gathered a few of my friends and we got ready to set out. But before we start our journey through Eorzea, we first need to make our characters. And as any seasoned MMO player will tell you, there are a grand total of 2 ways to go about this. You either sit down and meticulously craft an idealized version of yourself, someone you can look at and think, this is a reflection of myself and what I want to be in this game, which then further allows you to get engaged in the story and feel the various narrative beats on a more personal level, as you can fully immerse yourself in the fantasy of living in the world that
I'd
you
say
create.
most people
Or
do
you
that.
make the character you want to fuck the most. Obviously, we all went for the
Oh.
latter, and I gotta tell you,
Oh,
the great
yeah,
variety
right,
of
well,
races,
yeah.
there's really some for everyone here. Personally, I play
Maybe not
Conte
most.
because I recently finished up Necopara. Mark plays a Rogadin because he keeps catcalling female bodybuilders and hopes that they'll punch him in the face. Pierre plays an Aura because he shops at Bad Dragon, and Kurt, well, yeah, let's not get too into that. But now
No.
we've picked our races. We've
not
customized
really.
our waifu. Our class has been chosen, meaning we can finally log in, and we get to experience the gameplay.
technically, when creating a character, approaching one in one way does not exclude the other. You could
That's kind of shit. Okay, so let me just clarify quick. There are
just
some
do
genuinely
both
interesting
and
mechanics
create a
complex
character
rotation,
that serves
including
both.
target playstyle once you get to the end game. With a combat system that really makes it feel like moment-to-moment decisions you make matter a lot, and with a skill ceiling to boot, so you always feel like there's something you can improve upon on any given boss. And I think a nice example of this can be found in just looking at the player data or logs from the most recent raid. Here we find that the absolute worst DPS in the game you can potentially bring along with you is a black mage. However, if you go and look at the top of the meters for the very best players, the class with the highest potential output is a black mage. And this ability to become better at your class and abuses mechanics to the utmost to just do some absolutely nutty stuff really is what makes something as mundane seeming as tap targeting work as a combat system. But that's all in the end game, and before we get there, we first have to go through the entire 300-hour story, most of which you're way below max level for. And in terms of gameplay, it is... it is not good. The game doesn't just assume that this is your first time playing an MMO, it treats you as though you've never touched a computer before in your life.
It's
Let's take
not
the
really
Lancer as an
like
example.
that.
You start with True Thrust at level 1, then at level 4 you learn Vorpal Thrust, which
It-
combos with the
there's a
previous,
lot of
meaning you
hand-holding,
have
but
a
it's
very
not
basic
really
1-2
like
combo.
that.
Now, realistically, the next two abilities you get that influence your actual rotation are at level 18, where you get a buff, and level 26, where you get the third hit for your now 1-2-3 combo. After which you hit level 30 and your interesting skills sort of start being drip-fed to you at 5-level intervals. But until then, hope you enjoy pressing 1-2 repeatedly while watching Netflix on your secondary monitor, because that's what you're doing for the next 12 hours. And that's even
It's not really that it's not challenging. Like sometimes you'll just get like a full set of skills, but then when you go back to let's say like a synced mode of a dungeon or a trial or something, you suddenly have to remember what your most optimized rotation looks like when you don't have the whole skill set. And there's a little bit of magic in that as well. I don't know. For me at least.
one of the better examples. Try leveling something like a white mage in solo content. Aside from your dot, you have one damaging ability. When do you get your second? No. Okay, I guess technically you get Holy at level 45, but that's an AoE, and frankly, more of an attack on your 20/20 eyesight than any enemy. Still not convinced? Let me tell you about macros. A macro is a custom button that you can set up to do anything in your inventory or spellbook. So if you, for example, want to drink a potion to increase your damage whenever you activate your burst, you can make a macro to do so in a single button press. Final Fantasy, however, decided to also let you put a delay into your macros, meaning that you can queue up several abilities with the press of a single button. And combining this with a way too simple early game rotation meant that on my Dark Knight, which was the first character I leveled, until level 62, which is
How did he level
well
the
over
Dark
100
Knight
hours into
first?
the game, mind you, my entire rotation
Well, I
was
guess
bound
leveled
to a
till the
single
end.
button, meaning my gameplay effectively just ended up looking like this.
What's up, gentlemen? So today we are talking about the newest addition to the social hierarchy pyramid, which is the
15
elusive
signs
Sigma
you're a
male.
Sigma
And it's sad
male.
because there is some genuinely interesting gameplay to be had. Once
What
you
is
have your
a
full kit
Sigma
unlocked,
male?
But being kept from it for seemingly no reason other than the game just refusing to give you skills before they were canonically introduced in the expansion cycle, like a bad hand job, that rubbed me the wrong way. With that said though, outside of combat and content you'd expect like dungeons and raids, which all range from decent to phenomenal outside of like the first three, there's a lot of elements that are just there because they're fun or add flavor, and it's also a big part of what kept me going through the initial stages of the game to get to the actual good stuff later on. A giant casino with chocobo racing and
That
tons
is
of
the
minigames,
absolute best
in-game
stuff you
contests
have
hosted
access
by
to
players,
straight
the
away.
ability to get married, a collectible and playable card game inside the game, random jumping puzzles around the world, fully supported and customizable player housing. None of these have an impact on the actual gameplay, but people do them anyways because they're just fun or add to the world. Take fishing for example. I have no fucking idea what you use fish for in this game. Genuinely, couldn't tell you at gunpoint. Nevertheless, I'm fishing level 71 and probably have about 10% of my time in game spent fishing. Why?
I love
because
this.
it's chill. There's a little boat that goes out every 2 hours with like 24 people, and it's great fun to just go out with my friends and compare penis size in the form of our fishing score while chatting shit. One time I even managed to get 10,000 fish point, and I got a sick shark mount for it, which became one of my favorites for reasons. And these various systems
One
and
day.
types of moments really are what help make
One
the game
day.
feel like a living, breathing world as opposed to just a glorified dungeon hub. There's players everywhere, doing stuff, sometimes progressing and other times just hanging out. Occasionally, you'll stumble upon a location only to discover that some guy decided to throw an impromptu boat
I
party.
love the
At this
subtle
point,
music
about 200 people have
changes.
gathered just to have an in-game party for no other reason than the fact it seemed like a cool thing to do and because real clubs are scary. And the best part is that all these things are available to the average player
That's
right off
true.
the bat, helping sell them on
That's
the
so
world in
true.
community as they can jump right into the various systems without having to go through a 50-hour hand-holding session first. And while some like housing might seem a tad expensive at first, trust me, you go sit idle and limsy lumsa on a female character in a somewhat skimpy attire for a couple hours and respond with a winky face whenever one of those big furry fellows sends you a personal tell, you can easily make those 2 to 3 million in about 3 hours of good honest work, because as my favorite Twitch streamer always says,
never stop sucking big dick? Wait, what the fuck? That's not what it said.
And extending a helping hand to new players is not just limited
we'll
to
watch
the
that one
roleplay
too today.
community either. Everyone I've met in this game has actually just been so friendly that initially I thought there was some sort of hidden Reddit karma system coercing them to act this way, but no, for whatever reason, and you'll hear this echoed from basically everyone who's tried the game, the people who play it are just chill and welcoming. Whenever I've stood in a major city and looked at someone for more than 5 seconds, 9 out of 10 times,
Then you come to the game knowing
ask me how my day's
that you're
It's
supposed to
almost
be nice
uncanny
because
how friendly
everyone
people are in
told
this game.
you
Unlike anything I've
that
ever
people are
experienced
nice.
before.
So
Honestly,
it just
it's
kind of
just such a pleasure
pushes
having
you
these small
into it.
interactions littered throughout your gameplay. Heart, aren't you just describing people displaying basic human decency and not being assholes? Does average human behavior really warrant such praise? Excuse me? Have you ever actually played an online game? Last time I booted up Apex Legends, someone called me the N-word and leaked my IP address. And we were still in the lobby. The hardest part about League of Legends isn't playing a match, it's finding 4 other people that are mentally stable enough to stay for the duration of it.
I live in a bubble. Does that really happen? Is that true?
But that's just not a thing in Final Fantasy. The game's non-competitive nature and years of fostering a genuine
I live in
community
a
has meant that
freaking
people are
bubble.
just there to have a good time and are, for the most part, open to let you in on that sense of community, despite how good or bad you might be at the game itself. Heck, for a lot of people, the actual endgame they participate in basically just involves putting on some cute clothes, taking pictures of it, and partaking in the various side systems I mentioned earlier. And I think a large part of the reason the community surrounding Final Fantasy is so friendly is, unironically, because the largest and biggest draw of the game isn't anything so competitive as high-level PvP or even endgame PvE content, but rather the story. The story in Final Fantasy XIV is actually just so fucking good. Yoshi P took a pretty big gamble and effectively forcing every new player to play through everything in it before getting to the end game, which is usually where the focus of an MMO lies, but by god am I glad he did. Everything in the story is just a big interconnected network of events.
You just
Keep
realize
bringing up,
everything's
building upon
important
previous
when you
plot
finish.
points. However, this also
No
means
matter
that
how
if you hadn't pushed
draggy
through the
it
somewhat slower,
felt at
less
times.
interesting build-up stories from the base game, a lot of the stuff later on just wouldn't make any sense. And you'd be hard-pressed to find a person who's played through the entire thing and didn't love the absolute shit out of it. But when talking about a time investment this big, it's hard to know whether or not that's because it's actually universally good or because of survivorship bias, or as I like to call it, the One Piece effect. No one has watched every single episode of One Piece and wouldn't recommend you the show, but is that because it's actually good, or because the only people willing to sit through 1,000 episodes of it are the same ones who liked it in the first place? And it's the same with Final Fantasy. You won't meet a person who's played through the entirety of it and won't gush about the story, myself included, but for the people that never make it that far and just kind of leave with a somewhat lukewarm experience during some of the admittedly worse earlier content, it's hard to say whether or not they would have started to enjoy it had they just stuck with it. And even so, while I think there's some genuinely amazing narrative to be experienced through it, with the latest expansion Shadowbringers quite literally just being what I would call peak fiction, I also can't expect everyone to be as eager as me to waste 2 weeks worth of free time just to start experiencing it. What I will say though is that when this game tries to deliver a big story moment, I have yet to experience it not absolutely just hit it out of the park, bringing together music, visuals, and even utilizing the shortcomings of the MMO genre itself to its own advantage. For example, during the start of the Heavensward expansion, spoilers for Heavensward by the way, during the start of the Heavensward expansion, you're told about Nidhogg, a great worm who's waged a 1,000-year war with the people of Ishgard, seemingly out of nothing but his pure, unfounded hatred for mankind, and so being the warrior of
I just
light,
love
you
the
set out to
dragon
kill him.
models.
However,
I
as
didn't
you start
expect
making your
them
way towards
to
him,
look
you slowly
like that at
uncover more
all
pieces of the dragon's
when I
past,
started
and learn that
FF,
rather than some
but
chaotic evil dragon
they're
lord,
just
Nidhogg's
scary
story
and
is more akin to that of a
gorgeous.
beautiful and peaceful being, having been utterly consumed by rage after humanity betrayed him and his kin thousands of years ago, and a story forgotten to all but them, as the human leaders lured his sister into an ambush, after which they killed her to take the source of the Great Worm's power, namely, her eyes. And every time you uncover a piece or learn something new in regards to the origin of the dragons, you hear this instrumental track called Dragon Song play in the background. However, in spite of your newfound knowledge regarding Nidhogg, you find that his rage is simply too insurmountable to be overcome, and with his soul-driving force being the endless torment of the denizens of Ishgard, you now have to put him out of his misery. When you finally do battle him, his brute brother Hraesvelgr agrees to help you fight his enraged brother, but while the two fight, it proves that Nidhogg is slightly faster, slightly stronger, and eventually knocks his brother to the ground. However, as he holds him down and declares his victory, Hraesvelgr reveals his true plan.
This was such a good moment. That was insane.
To offer you one of his eyes in an effort to empower you such that you might take on
Like, I got so freaked
transfer
out
power that no dragon
the
can
first
grant
time
you.
I saw the black
And as you
hole.
walk into his
It's
eyes,
just like
absorbing
with
parts of the
Tesla.
dragon's essence, you hear that
It's
ever
like that
familiar
same
tune start to
model
play.
that just like
This time,
ooh,
it's
just
different.
irks me.
Children of the land.
Oh no, not the song. Oh no, no.
This lyric. Having become one with part of the dragon, you now hear the full meaning of the dragon song, as it blasts in the background and tells the story of not only the betrayal, but also friendship that
I had to go back and like read the lyrics of the song
twisted Nidhogg into the spiteful
after
being
that
standing
stream.
before you. However, despite the fault line elsewhere, you know that he must be put down, so you stand alert and ready your weapon to
Beautiful.
fight him. The cutscene ends, and in front of you stands Nidhogg as the lyrical version of the dragon song plays in the background, under the tune of which you now get a solid few minutes to take in what exactly you're about to do, as you wait for the cue to pop for the fight, where you can then finally take on Nidhogg and put an end to the dragon song war. Obviously, I'm not doing a 50-hour story justice by rephrasing the lyrics
Goosebumps
in paragraphs,
again?
but this is just one moment from the first expansion in which they managed to not only deliver on a big story moment, but made the act of queuing up and literally just waiting a part of that experience. Something I've never experienced done before. This is just one such instance in a much grander narrative, the total sum of which helps cement Final Fantasy XIV as one of the best stories I've ever experienced in a video game to date.
For me, the best.
But should you fap to it? Before I ever booted up Final Fantasy XIV for the first time, I stumbled upon a character from the game named Angelise Rider, a character who just so happened to have an ungodly amount of, shall we say, adult fan art attached to her name. And seeing this 2-meter tall ashen-haired Gallian princess get plowed in every position under the sun by various farm animals got me thinking, damn, maybe I should try out Final Fantasy. And so, mostly attributed to my Akuma mentality, I gave the game a shot, only to discover about 300 hours of playtime later that Angelise Rider is in fact not a character in the lore, but rather someone's OC who's commissioned several hundred pieces of hentai of her. You heard that right. The reason I started playing this game was to meet a character that doesn't exist in the canon. Nevertheless, I ended up having a pretty good time with it anyways, and meeting a ton of actual
And I was
characters
like,
on the
I'm
game,
watching
which
and I'm like,
turned out
who
to have a
is
very
she?
similar Rule 34 count to that of Best Girl Angelise. I also found that one of my favorite artists, Devil HS, has made not one, but 2 full-length comics centered around the game, both of which I must confess to enjoying quite a bit. And the fan creations don't stop at just fan art either. You can even spice up the game itself with some highly illegal third-party add-ons. Don't think the titty slider goes up quite far enough on the bunny girls? Got you covered. Wish your characters could dress off down to a little less than their underwear? You know it. Think Lala's could do with being a little more sexualized as opposed to just
You
looking
can do
like
all that?
potatoes?
Oh, I mean, you can.
Motherfucker! Did you fap to Final Fantasy XIV? Yes.
What are these videos being suggested to me? What have I done? What's my queue? My browse and my home gonna look like now? Thanks for sharing the video. And then have one of the best voice actors in the whole media. She really did. And also Ahab and who was it? Victor, welcome back. I hope you are enjoying and having a good day. We're gonna watch more. I have quite a few today that I wanted to check out. This other one is FF14 web player discovers Femroes. This is kind of a painful video for me to watch because I'm still grieving my own Femro, and I don't know, like I just wish I could play her, but the glamour game is just not that good. Not that good, and there are way too many things that I want to wear that just look like a piece of shit on my Femro. So I caved and I switched, but it is my first love. So I'm gonna be very sad.
Everyone with half a brain knows that Limsa Lominsa, or Limp Simpsa as I call it after I've had a few too many, is by far and away the best starting city in Final Fantasy XIV. It's the truth, I know it, you know it, and if you disagree with me, well, you're just a straight up bog yarzon. Yeah, I said it. Limsa is the tits for multiple reasons. I mean, think about it. It's got sun, sea, and it's also the home to my absolute natty lad, Captain Jack, and his crew. You know, the forgettable one and the unforgettable one. Now, all those things are great, but what makes Limsa truly great is just one thing. One woman, in fact. Yep, you already know who it is. We're talking about Merlwyb, the Admiral, master and commander
She's
of
the
the
reason
HMS
why I
Cleveland,
chose
and
my,
prime example of today's
my
subject.
grand company.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, it's about time that we moved on from female empowerment to female power lifters. Prepare to get absolutely out-angled. Femroes, let's do it.
Death! My snoo snoo! Yeah!
Now, despite my certified noob status, we've already covered a lot of the essential Final Fantasy XIV questions on this channel. We've looked at cat girls, we've examined
noob.
bunny girls, and we've tried to draw some balanced conclusions as to which of them is better.
Oh, brother, put your hands together.
So, as you can see, we're well on our way to completing the waifu videos and moving on to discovering the various jobs themselves. Yes, I will be doing that. Your favourite class is not safe, be afraid. In the meantime though, we're going to look at a very different kind of girl to your bunnies, cats and lizard girls. Femroes, row mommies, or just female rogadin if you're not a man of culture like myself, have a different kind of appeal. Because you see, these ladies are tall, well built and, well fuck it, who am I kidding? These girls lift, and if you're not into that, if you're not down with the thickness, then first of all, what the fuck is wrong with you? But more to the point, they're probably not going to be for you. I mean, for fuck's sake, the official wiki itself describes them as being muscular, and yes, whilst it also describes them as being, quote, less massive than their male counterparts, that means sod all when each and every one of the males is built like a fucking landy. Trust me when I say that these girls could squash a Lalafel's head between their thighs like a bloody watermelon.
That's
but
probably
you can't see that
true.
now. This is a good thing. Being elegant and graceful is great, sure, but sometimes you need a
Doesn't make it right,
no-nonsense
but it's
approach
true.
if you want to get the job done, especially if you play with friends like mine. This view is absolutely incredible. I cannot wait to go at Ishgard. Don't know about you.
No, it is. It's beautiful. But if I could push you off this cliff right now, I absolutely would.
But you can't say that. I just realised this girl's got her ass hanging out.
Naughty, naughty.
What the fuck? I've got to keep...
They sound like fun.
So now that we've established the Femroes are thicker than a bowl of oatmeal, I think it's about time that I butchered the lore of this race. No, seriously, I'll make sure not to do them dirty like I did the Aura, because evidently confusing dragons and lizards when talking about people's favourite waifus is simply unacceptable. Now, the Rogadin are a
I need to
maritime
watch that
race
video.
who first came out of the frigid North Seas into Eorzea, and they make up a big slice of the population of Limsa-Lominsa, the city-state which supplies the naval branch of the Eorzean Allied forces.
The first time
Basically,
I went there,
these guys
as a Rogadin,
absolutely
I
love
just
the
felt
sea,
like
so
home.
don't be worried, because this is probably the only situation in which if a girl smells like fish, you don't need to be worried. Probably. Still gross though. Moving on. I think that one of the coolest things about Femroes, beyond having abs worthy of a mountaineering expedition, is that you've got Merlwydd, the Admiral. Now, all these jokes aside, I think she's genuinely one of the coolest characters I've encountered in the game so far, and she really does pull off the saucy
She's so
pirate look
badass.
with a combination of Captain Birdseye outfit and stacked top decks, guaranteed to hoist your Jolly Roger. Add to this the fact that she's the leader of one of the grand companies, and you have a recipe for a really interesting female character. It's just a shame she suffers from one major drawback, which I have not been able to unsee since the moment she first came on screen. It's the way her nose and forehead are just one continuous body. I mean, for fuck's sake, it looks as if her nose was designed as a landing strip so that you could park a bastard jumbo jet on her forehead. Other than that, we're all good. Though I gotta say, she's got a ridiculously long neck in some of the artwork I've seen, like scarily long, as in some Attack of the Clones hangs out with Master Sifo Diaz shit. And speaking
All
of,
of these
if you would
things
like to
make it
hang
more
out with
true.
me in a live capacity, then very soon you will be able to do so. I'm going to start streaming Final Fantasy XIV, and the date I've set for the start of that is the 29th of October at 6 PM GMT. Yep, it's a long time away, but I'm moving house in like 2 days, and that brings with it a ton of things to sort out, including getting internet set up, so
Oh man,
tough
these
shit.
things suck.
On the plus side, it gives you ample time to square away any unimportant, tedious other business you might have scheduled that day, such as work, childcare, delivering the Amulet of Kings, you know. Hopefully by then, I'll be just about to start Heavensward, which is where I'm told shit gets really good, so I'm sure we'll all have a lot of fun. Either that or it'll be scuffed as fuck and a complete joke. But hey, if you're not into that, what the fuck have you been doing watching my videos? What can we conclude about Femroes then? Well, safe to
I
say,
don't know.
if you're
I
a
don't know
Rogadin
this guy, but
enjoyer,
I'm gonna
you're
have
never
to
going to be
start
at risk in
watching.
Eorzea because your waifu doubles up as a bodyguard with the in-ring capabilities of Kurt Angle, and at 7'3" tall, the head clearance of Andre the fucking Giant.
That's why you need a big sausage.
And with that, I will give all of you degenerates a dire warning. When it comes to Femroes, you are absolutely not the alpha in that dynamic. And unless you're playing a square sausage, you could get snapped like a fucking twig at any moment. Just remember, if you go to sleep at night with one of these girls next to you, prepare your anus and hope for the best.
Ouch.
Now if you enjoyed this video and you're such a depraved, warp-touched lunatic that you want to see more, I would advise you to subscribe to the channel. There will be more like this.
Alright, I think I may have subbed to the channel as I queue. Oh, I did sub. Okay, I'm gonna have to watch more of these videos. That was hilarious. Thank you for sharing.